Did you know avoidant personality disorder is something that a lot of people experience in their parents as children? You know, there's a lot of children in the world, and if you look at some of the research that has been done on avoidant personality disorder, you'll be able to see that there's a lot of children who have parents who are suffering from avoidant personality disorder. Now, in today's video, I want to highlight some things that you have likely experienced that have been traumatizing to you if you have a parent who has avoidant personality disorder. But before we do that, let me introduce myself in case you are new. My name is Tamra, and I'm an internationally and board certified trauma therapist. I'm also licensed in mental health, and I specialize in treating children, teens, and families, as well as adults who are dealing with trauma. Let's jump in. I found myself going over a little bit of research here, which is what you saw me doing at the beginning of the video with my laptop. I'm actually looking at an article just for my remembrance that talks about the predictors of withdrawal. And I'll post that article in the description box below for you so you can take a look at it as well. What happens in situations where there's avoidant personality disorder in a parent is that the child suffers greatly from a loss of having a parent. There's an unavailability across the board when it comes to these parents. Now, you know, I did a video a couple years ago when I first started my YouTube channel on avoidant personality disorder, and a lot of people were like, oh my God, you make us sound so evil. And really that video, which I will link up here in the cards for you, it's really for individuals who are frustrated, angry, embittered about a family member who has avoidant personality disorder or somebody that they're in a relationship with. But in today's video, I really want to highlight the trauma that you have possibly experienced with a parent like this. There's a lot of research on avoidant personality disorder, but very little on families, on parents, and on the parent-child relationship. If you suspect that your parent has avoidant personality disorder, you're probably right. It's really not that difficult to identify it, especially if you have dealt with a person throughout so many years, right? So let's say you're a child growing up under a parent with avoidant personality, you likely know exactly what you're looking at. And you can feel on the inside of you that something has been missing from that parent for you for a long, long time. Let me give you some characteristics of avoidant personality disorder that you most likely have seen in your parent. What you really want to keep your mind on when you're thinking about avoidant personality is the reality that, you know, this particular parent has chronic feelings of inadequacy. They don't believe at the core of who they are that they are capable of achieving, that they are capable of moving forward, that they are capable of overcoming challenges and raising a child. If you've had a parent like this, you most likely have heard this parent say, I can't do this anymore, or I'm not a good mother to you and I'm sorry. You may have heard this kind of a parent say, you know, I'm such a mess up, I can never do anything right. And if you haven't heard those words, you most likely have sensed it from them. You can definitely sense from a person with avoidant personality disorder how they feel about themselves at the core. They can really struggle from a lack of high self-efficacy, meaning that they don't believe that they are capable, right? So a high self-efficacy that you may hold about yourself says, I'm capable, I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm able, but someone with a low self-efficacy is going to believe that they are not capable. And that's usually how these parents feel. Now, you may also notice that with a parent with avoidant personality disorder, they are highly sensitive to criticism. They may block out the outside world from even you because they are afraid that whatever behaviors you may exhibit or whatever you may say or whatever you may do is going to make them look bad. So a lot of times they hold their children back. They keep them away from the public or society or even other family members, neighbors, and friends because they're afraid of being judged as being a bad parent parent as being an incapable parent, you know? The other thing that you're likely to see is that they are overly concerned with the evaluation of others. You know, there are times when I'm self-conscious, even as a therapist, I'm like, is my hair right? Is something sticking up? Is my earring off, right? And there are other times where I'm literally going to wear my pajamas to the grocery store today, and I'm gonna put my trench coat on and act like I'm dressed up. You know, I'm going to leave the house without any makeup, that kind of thing. And those are normal fluctuating emotions and moods, right? But an avoidant parent is going to be so overly concerned with the evaluation of others that they literally isolate, they withdraw, they become very sensitive to looks. They have a lot of what we call cognitive distortions. Here's the definition of cognitive distortions right over here. And here's a video right up here where I talk about cognitive distortions. They are very overly concerned with how other people see them. Now, from your point of view, you may be saying to yourself, isn't that a narcissist? Not quite. The difference between a narcissist and someone with avoidant, personality disorder is that a narcissist wants to be perceived as important because they need that. A person with avoidant personality does not want to be perceived as important. They are just sensitive to how other people view them, if that makes sense. The narcissist is as well, but that's because they want to be perceived as important and wonderful. But the person with avoidant personality disorder does not necessarily want to be perceived a certain way. They just don't want to be judged. So what happens to you traumatically when you are being raised with a parent like this? Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the characteristics that are likely to disturb you and some of the ways that you may struggle. If you have a parent like this as an adult, you may find that this particular individual is permissive. This is your parent as an adult, permissive and avoids conflict. You can't go to this parent and have a normal conversation and say, you know, would you please not do this next time you visit me and my husband? Or, you know, can we go here instead of there, mom or dad, right? It's really hard to have a very open conversation with a parent like this, even as an adult, because they are permissive, right? They don't really step up and step into their shoes as a parent in a confident way. They kind of shy away from conflict. They shy away from open communication. And it's really like the tables are turned. You're talking to a child, really, even though they are labeled your parent. And they also avoid conflict. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to try to make it work. They don't want to make it worse. They just want to stay in the position that they're in. Don't address me. Let's not. The next thing is that they kind of lack pleasure. They lack the feelings of pleasure, I should say, in the things that maybe they once enjoyed. So we call that anhedonia. Anhedonia. Here's the word right here so you can see it. And basically, here's what happens. Maybe at one time they enjoyed playing poker with you, or bingo, or charades, or they love going shopping and traveling with you. But now all of a sudden, they're really having a hard time finding pleasure in the things that they once did. It's almost like they're so overly concerned with how other people, including you, are judging them and criticizing them and kind of measuring them up against other things in life that they don't want to engage. And so disengaging and withdrawing and isolating often leads to anhedonia, okay? And that can also lead to depression. So you might find with these individuals that they become depressed over time because they isolate, they withdraw, and they're so afraid of how other people see them, including you. It's your criticism, it's your evaluation, it's your critiquing that they can't tolerate. They may be determined to avoid being seen, right? So they are determined to avoid being seen. And what I mean by that is that they're going to do any and everything they need to do to avoid being criticized, to avoid being seen in the eyes of other people in a negative way. And so you may find that some of these parents almost seem plastic, right? Is my makeup right? Is my hair right? You know, is my curls fixed right? Is my clothing okay? Wait, let me make sure my boots are tied. You know, that's the kind of parent that they may be to you. It's constant and frequent. I have to look good. I don't want to look bad. I have to be pulled together. I don't want to be judged. And they may actually, again, shy away from social interactions or even family gatherings because they have to make sure that they are not going to be criticized. It's a painful reality for them. And so they avoid every situation that they can to avoid being judged. You know, you may feel like that particular parent is almost like a, what do they call it, a porcelain doll, right? A glass figure. You can't do too much to it or it's going to shatter. That's kind of how these parents are. And it may have affected you negatively, over the years, right? Because you didn't have that available parent emotionally and psychologically. Another thing that's good to keep in mind about these parents is that, you know, some of this may be learned behavior. Maybe their own parent had avoidant personality or avoidant attachment or different kinds of behaviors that negatively impacted them. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they have avoidant personality just because they show all these traits that I'm mentioning. It could just be that it's learned behavior, and they can learn to undo that behavior if they get the right amount of help. And lastly, I think it's important to keep in mind that these particular parents are never going to be cognitively and emotionally available to you. They are walking through life afraid. They are walking through life socially anxious. They are walking through life constantly trying to dodge criticism, judgment, evaluation of others, to the point that you may feel that you do not have a normal, healthy relationship with this parent. Your best tool with a parent like this, and I tell all my clients this, is to accept the reality that you may never have the parent that you want. It doesn't mean these individuals can't get better. It just means that this is a learned behavior. It's a personality disorder, which is difficult to change overnight. Even so many sessions in, it is difficult to change. And if you find yourself struggling with a parent like this, you have to be okay. Learn to be okay with accepting that this particular parent is probably not going to give you everything that you need. That's a very hard reality. But I find that once I tell some of my clients that, they kind of exhale like, oh my God, that's all I have to do. And it's really hard because society says our parents are supposed to be there for us. Our parents are supposed to be everything that we desire. But that's not the truth. Our parents are individuals with psychological and emotional needs themselves. And sometimes they can't deal with reality, life, judgment, criticism, self-evaluations, and so they shut down. So the best way to cope is to learn to be okay with having this kind of parent. This is hard, guys, and I know that most of you have likely experienced this on the channel. You tell me a lot about your families, a lot about your parents, a lot about people who have raised you. So let me know in the comment section below if you have experienced this and what have you noticed about a parent like this or a family member. But specifically for this video, your parent. Thank you so much for being with me today in this video. I encourage you to give it a thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can stick around with me and stick around with the rest of us, and hit that bell button so every time I post a video, you are alerted. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.